I was speaking to a friend of mine years back, and I said that the Korean movie industry might not be overtaking Hollywood just yet, but it was definitely in the race. And I stand by those words. Squid Game Season 3 just reaffirmed that for me. It's managed to do something that billions of Hollywood propaganda dollars have consistently failed to achieve. To write a trans character that isn't hollow, isn't pandering, isn't annoying, and is instead engaging, well developed, and frankly, and my respect. That alone is what applauding. But as always, let's get into it. There's something about the way Koreans write stories that just hit differently. It's visceral, it's raw. There's an emotional honesty to it that doesn't rely on cheap tricks or constant explosion. And with the current wave of superhero fatigue, the timing couldn't be better for this kind of storytelling to shine. Now, for those of you who don't know what superhero fatigue means, bear with me here for a second while I explain. Superhero fatigue refers to the growing boredom or exhaustion that people are feeling from the endless stream of superhero movies and shows. For over a decade, Hollywood's been pumping them out non-stop. Every few months, there's a new cape, a new multiverse, a new world-ending threat. And at first, it was exciting, but now it's repetitive, it's predictable, emotionally empty. Hollywood used the age of superheroes to get away with lazy and sloppy writing, paying actors ungodly sum of money for their PR and popularity first, and then their acting second. As a result, soulless acting and flashy CGI was basically what we got. But people are tired. Not because they hate superheroes, but because there's only so much you can do with the same formula before it starts to feel hollow. That's why something like Squid Game hits so differently right now. It's not trying to be flashy, it's not selling you nostalgia or cameos. It's just good storytelling, tense and human. Hey, this is a good time to let you know that I always look forward to your encouragement and critiques to the comment. It keeps me going, so please keep it coming. Thank you. Squid Game is a masterclass in human nature. It consistently shows to what level humans would sink in pursuit of greed. What it has done is take abstract ideas from the greatest philosophers and giving them flesh to dance before our very eyes. The very idea of evil, of how people succumb to peer pressure and will do horrible things simply because others are doing the same, reinforcing the fact that more often than not, humans are the architect of our own suffering and despair. Now, we're introduced to religious leader archetype in Seon-Yo, right? She's a narcissist slash cult-like leader who weaponizes religion and spirituality to mask incompetence. She's often very bold and quick to use the fear of internal damnation to bring anybody stupid enough to heal. In no time, she has a group of faithful acolytes, and from there on, they basically act as her enforcers and retainers until they meet their very timely end. It's a perfect example of how people will turn to anything, and especially to the divine when they are in dire straits. Then we have the crypto bro archetype in number 333. This man literally got rug pulled by his own rug pull and is the very definition of scum. Irresponsible father, irresponsible spouse, great ambition with no desire for great work, greed and laziness in perfect harmony. Then we're given the failed rapper archetype in Thanos, someone who earned way more money than he knew what to do with too fast. So, fittingly enough, he put it all in Crypto Bros coin and flopped hard. There's the weak archetype characterized by Pac-Man 2 and Pacquiao Sick. The first couldn't stand up for himself and allowed himself to be pushed around, succumbing to drug use in the end. The second, however, turned to killing the baby at the end. Horrifying, but he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. When we get the old fool in number 100, old enough to have the experience and age necessary to fool people and apply the authority bias on younger people, but not quite old enough to not get into 10 billion won worth of debt or to get your act in order. A prime example of the old robbing the young. And finally, we have Seong Gi-hon, the broken savior. Someone who isn't a savior because he wants to be, but because he can't move on from the horrors of what he has experienced. The average individual without but much money would just justify that there's nothing they could do except move on with their lives. They would do some charity or something along those lines to like quiet the guilt. The broken savior archetype is moved both by guilt and compassion. He won't take the easy way out, both to help others and to punish himself. That is who Song Gi-hon is, broken yet offering redemption. And in the end, he failed. No one ever said the broken saviors were effective anyways. I won't be rating this. This masterpiece cannot be tainted by numbers. But to compensate for not giving it a rating, here's an even more controversial video that I did. The most controversial one I've done so far. In here, I talk about why fiction and fantasy is failing massively. And then I ask you for your opinion on how to fix it.